All right, peace and much love. Zin Uru here. Welcome to the latest installment of Message from the Minista. This week's message from the Minista is perfection is protection. Perfection is protection. And I want to welcome y'all here. Thank you, all of you. Thank all of yous. Thank you, all the eyes here. We are all of the same I, the great I am, the great being, the great meaning, the great event of the universe. And from this perspective, everything is perfect in all ways, at all times. You know, when we're talking every week, once again, it's the reminder that no matter where you're at while I'm filming this, no matter where you're in the world, in spirit, we're here together. So no matter where we are physically in the world, here in consciousness and spirit, we are together. And the same thing, as far as space goes, now the same thing goes for time. No matter how far forward in the so-called future you're seeing this, you're still seeing it in the everlasting now. And we are all here together in the everlasting now. Because now is all we really live in. And the now, when it's really properly understood or overstood, is the past, the so-called present, and the so-called future. So everything is all happening at once. And so all of us being here who are watching this in the future, who projecting themselves, you could visualize yourself in this room. The ancestors who are here with us. In that all, in that spirit, in that spiritual sight, it shall always be and has always been perfect. So when we're part of the spirit, when we're in one with the spirit, which everything is ultimately perfect. And I know it almost sounds like a contradiction. I know that you can look at the world and say, this ain't perfect, this ain't perfect, this ain't perfect, this ain't perfect. All right, I'll give you that. There's no argument here. And technically speaking, when we get into the quote unquote definitions of perfection and what being perfect is, that works. It works. Starvation, homelessness, child abuse, all of these things are far from perfect. But when we see the ultimate picture of all that is, when we see everything together as one in the wholeness in God's perfect creation, we see that even hell itself is perfect. Even the state of so-called being in hell is perfect. It acts as a perfect motivator. It acts as the perfect example of what not to be. We can think in our own lives of those who may have cheated on us or abused us or taken advantage of us or stolen from us or any number of things that people tend to do in life. And we could say, man, that ain't perfect. Man, we was in a relationship. She cheated on me. How's that perfect? Well, it's perfect in that it is a catalyst for change in your life to draw you closer to your purpose, to God's will, plan, and purpose for you, and to seeing the perfection in everything. This isn't the easiest lesson to see, but it is a pretty simple philosophy to grasp, right? Everything is perfect. And this perfection that everything is actually protecting us. Let me say that again. This perfection and the way that it's presenting itself to us is actually protecting us. Now, there's a lot of hardcore shit going on in people's lives. Some real situations, some really, just those moments where you don't know what's going on. Something sad is about to happen, the death of a loved one. You're down in the dumps. You just lost your job. Somebody just got in your family just got a debilitating illness. I ask real talk. Ask real talk. And in no way are what we saying and speaking about here tonight in any way does it negate the perfection of feeling the loss of a loved one. In no way does it negate the perfection of the pain and suffering we go through in humanity. Also called suffering, also called pain, they are all temporary effects of this world and this earth and this classroom of the school that we find ourselves waking up in and sleeping in. So, if somebody, say, cheated on you, somebody, your partner cheated with somebody else. And we're saying over here, everything is perfect. Everything is perfection. You're like, it don't feel perfect. Yeah, but you're being perfected. And as we are being perfected, that is the definition of perfection. While something or someone is being perfected, that's the definition of perfection. As the soul is learning the lessons, as the part of us, the non-physical part of us, the spirit of us, who inhabits this body, who breathes in and out of this rental. There's a soul lesson that you have to learn through whatever situation you're going through. That is the perfection. And when we embrace that perfection of what we're going through, the hardness of it, the hardships of it, even the great and the elated feelings, we'll realize that perfection protects us from falling deeper into depression, deeper into anxiety, deeper into fear, deeper into hell. See, the mind is amazing. What we can imagine is going to be the reality that we create for ourselves. What we believe about the nature of reality, what we believe about ourselves, what we really feel. When I say belief, belief gets into feelings. Belief ain't just a thinking thing. Belief is highly part of, what we feel is what we believe. More so than even what we think. So people are going around all the time convinced by the ego of the world that they're worthless, that they ain't worth nothing. Based on the color of the skin. Based on the history of their so-called ancestors. Based on their economic situation. Based on their religion. Based on their education, based on their job, based on this, that, their car, their clothes, their shoes, whatever it is. There's something to be said for that, There's something to be said for that because when people believe that they ain't shit, they feel like they ain't shit, and they walk around and they experience a life of I ain't shit. And when you come to hip hop, okay, as a hip hopper, you got to know something real about that. I am somebody. Say I am somebody. Say I am somebody. That's right. That's early hip hop. That's like Busy Bee era. Lovebug Starsky era, the original era, right? Say, I am somebody. And that's that hip hop sight, and that's that hip hop knowing, and that's that hip hop being, and that is the perfection of hip hop. Like, hip hop has the ability, which is a human ability, which is a human skill, to perfectly redefine our environment, perfectly redefine who we are, or perfectly define who we are. Define, deify, deity, deifine, the finished deity. As we define who we are through hip hop as consciousness, our life starts to change around us. Why? Because I am somebody. This is that hip hop site that adds value to things, you know, like the turntable added the value of it becoming an instrument from an appliance. The Timberland boot used to be a construction worker's boot until hip hop gave it value. Hip hop saw that construction worker's boot as a fashion statement, and it became, you know, Timberland, I don't know if they used to not give the credit to hip hop for what was obviously increased their sales. But that site works in our day-to-day lives. It doesn't have to be that everybody accepts how you see things. It's how you see things. That's what's important. I used to tell people I'm Minista Zin Uru. They didn't know what that was, right? There was no Minista Zin Uru, Minista. That was a new word. I'm a Minista Zin Uru, and people would be like, well, I'm Minista Zin Uru, the temple of hip hop. What's the temple of hip hop? What's a Minista Zin Uru? I don't get it. I don't see you. It's like you're invisible, buddy. But here it is, you know, 15, 16 years later. And that belief in myself, that vision I saw for myself, that hip hop site that I used with myself, that perfection brought me to a state of being that it's like, it's a fixed condition in my life. Zin Uru, this guy you see here, this is a fixed condition. It's not like it's a character I created. It's me. It's who I am. It's close. It's because I'm still discovering who I am in this perfection that we all experience together. But the vision of who I have for myself and who God has for me and who I surrendered to God for the ultimate vision puts this feeling inside the heart, you know, and this longing inside the heart to express itself in certain ways, not just on the mic, not just on the camera, not just with the pen and paper. But even when I'm sleeping, like there's a certain way I need, when I go to sleep at night, okay? And I was noticing this last night, or even when I wake up, be mindful of the chatter that we wake up to. That's our theta state. And that's really the creative power. We're in a theta wave while we're coming up out of sleep. Sleep is delta. We're usually in delta wave when we're dreaming and sleeping. But as we're coming awake, we get into this state called theta. And then in the alpha and beta, which is where, you know, beta is kind of like, you know, we're doing a task, we're involved in our day-to-day things, we're driving. That's like beta wave. Alpha wave is like where we're in a moment of meditation and clarity. Theta is when we're in a state of being and knowing that we know things that we haven't even been told. We're experiencing things that we haven't even seen. We're seeing the future and the past in theta. Delta is like when we're in a deep sleep. And gamma is like that's some Hulk shit. Gamma wave is, you know, they say like a mom, her kid is getting crushed by a car and she just finds a superhuman strength and chucks the car over. There's stories of this, of people just superhuman states of being just accomplished because, you know, something tragic is about to happen. And so, you know, these heroic things, this is where the idea of superheroes come from. You know, it's this gamma wave. And, it's very, very seldom really experienced. I've experienced it in deep, deep meditation before. It's even beyond theta. But back to the theta wave and in our perfection. What we have to do in our day-to-day living, what we need to do is be aware of our thinking. And this starts with the perfection of our thinking, which starts in the morning and at night before we go to bed, and when we wake up throughout the night, and then when we wake up in the morning. Okay? Be mindful to start those days or go to sleep with just positive affirmations, simple ones. I am love. I am a state of love. God is love. Love is God. I am perfection. I am the wholeness. I am the oneness. I am at peace. I am prosperity. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. You know, these type of things, we just repeat them over and over in our head and our heart while we're drifting off to sleep. And then when we wake up and start saying them again and drift off to sleep. And then when we wake up in the morning, be aware of what mind state you can set the tone of our day with just in the morning. If you have stress, here's one that happens a lot. If you wake up in the morning with a lot of stress on your mind, I got so much to do today. I got this and got this and got this to go. Wow, am I ever stressed out right now? Thank you, God, for this stress. Thank God for the stress. Won't we get more of? No, what we do is we show gratitude for the stress because we understand that the stress can lead somewhere. Not to more stress, but if we understand what's happening to us, it can lead us to self-discovery, self-knowledge, which is growth. And that's the perfection of it. Embrace the stress. I woke up the other morning, I had a lot to do. A lot was on my plate. Checked my phone real quick, which is not always a good idea. I checked my phone real quick and saw 2 or 3 messages I needed to respond to. I was waiting to hear about my car, this, that, and the other, right? And I woke up and I was like, all of a sudden my brain started racing. I started making all these plans. I said, wow, I'm stressed today. This is hilarious. I am so stressed out right now. Why? Why? Why am I allowing myself to be stressed out right now? And I started laughing, and then all of a sudden the peace came over me, and I said, wait a minute, all these things are going to get done. I already know, and if I meditate for even 15 minutes right now, if I just clear my plate for 15 minutes and start my day, and I just kind of visualize the pace of my day, I visualize myself making the calls, I visualize myself fulfilling the responsibilities that I have in this day, that 15 minutes will save me hours the rest of the day, will save me energetically vibrating at a frequency of stress for the rest of the day, right? And so I sat there and I was energized because I knew what had to be done. I had to get on stuff quickly. And so, I did that. 10, 15 minutes went by. I never really got into the deep state of meditation or anything, but I clearly visualized my day. I spoke into the intelligence of my day, and my day presented itself in such a way that I accomplished more that day than I had planned on. And those things at the end of the day got accomplished were those things for me that were personally really what I wanted to work on, which was my music. I've been putting it off for a while. I haven't really been working on music. And so I was like, I gotta just to fulfill my own soul's desire, my own soul's need, my own soul's longing. I need to work on some music. And I say all this as an example when we're talking about perfection because our mind state is so key to perfection. And when we can reach a place where we can say everything is perfection, we will start seeing that perfection. A really good and dear friend of mine, a brother, a beyond brother beyond. He taught me about what perfection is based upon an experience he had. And I'm not going to share that experience here right now. I will have to ask him, or he'll when he's ready to share it, he shares it with people. But he went through something. This is what I want to say. He went through something that was so unbelievable, that could have been so sad, so soul-crushing, so just everything that you can imagine going wrong. The most hurtful, painful thing that somebody could experience. As a parent, okay? just to put that depth in there. He experienced that, and in his experience, he was shown that he could either embrace the perfection of it all or just forever go in a downward spiral. He saw that at a moment of clarity. God gave him that. God spoke to him in that moment. And so in that moment, he saw the perfection of it. And the idea of perfection is one thing, but the experience of perfection and seeing the perfection and embracing the wholeness of perfection is another, because perfection will bring freedom. Embracing that everything is perfect will free us from those events. We're going to experience the event. We're going to experience the sadness. We're going to experience loss. But when we realize and we embrace that loss and that experience is perfection, God will reveal to us what is truth. You know, I was shown in the vision from God. I had visited when I was down in Compton with Professor Sanchez. We were down in Compton, right, and we met this guy Stu. And it was a community center in Compton, and Stu on his wall just had hundreds of pamphlets from young children who had passed from their funerals. And their pictures, these beautiful young children from Compton, beautiful young black children from Compton, just the pictures and the ages that they passed. And there was a certain poster that had 9 and 9, so I had 18 mothers holding pictures of their sons. And all the mothers had tears in their eyes and their sons' ages or daughters' ages when they died from gang violence and drive-bys and just the violence in Compton alone. And, 17, 15, 12, 8, 7 years old. One kid was 7 years old, died in a drive-by shooting. And I just thought, man, this is like the saddest thing I've ever seen, I mean, it touched my heart deeply and profoundly to this day. I use it as a motivating force because it's the epitome of seeing what true injustice looks like, especially what economic injustice looks like, and what true socialized racism looks like, institutionalized racism looks like. Because it really is about economy. It's about education, but it's really about economy. Violence stems from a lot of violence stems from poverty and not knowing a better way or not having a better vision. And that's why hip hop came the way that it came. I saw this poster though, these mothers crying, their children, and it was in my heart for a while. The following summer, I got invited to the Native American church and to do a Wachuma ceremony. And the Wachuma ceremony, you sit in this big hut around, you drink this tea, you see God, for the Great Spirit, you see. You're in this place, and what we do is we would go up and pray. We would pray. There was like an altar in the center of it, and you go and pray and you pour forward. And it's really about feeling what you feel. And it was such a moment for me because that moment I was thinking about that poster, about the scene, and about those children's lives who'd been lost, and my heart was heavy. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting there, why is this happening, Great Spirit? Why? And all of a sudden, and there was candles moving, and in the flames that were coming up, I saw those pictures of those children's faces, but they were all laughing and smiling and enjoying and just having just love. And I was like, God's like, you're the one who has the problems, Zin. They're good. Their souls are so happy. They're with me right now. They're experiencing joy beyond your understanding at this very moment. Why would you ever be sad for them? They're in my perfection. And you see this for a moment and you think, The problems we have with the world are the problems we create because they're the problems we have with the world. They're not the problems God has with the world. So we can look at a situation where young people are getting shot and we know that's a terrible situation. We know that something has to be done about that situation. We know that times have to change. We know that divine intervention is going to intercede. We know all of these things. We're not in denial that this has to change by seeing the perfection in the event itself. I can't deny that the perfection that they're living in a heavenly state of being with God, in joy, in peace, elated. I can't live in denial that I didn't see that because I still see the injustice. I can still see the injustice and still say, yo, kids should not be getting shot, and also be able to know that those kids who did get shot, they're with God right now. They ain't sad about it. We're sad about it. We know it's an injustice. It should never happen. And only a sociopath would even think that sending a child to heaven was something nice to do like that, because there are some sick, twisted spiritual teachings out there that actually teach that. No. But the perfection of it is that God saw the injustice, and God's justice is that the injustice that happened to those children dying prematurely, the justice for that is there with me in the kingdom of heaven, in a better place, in a better way, in a better state of being. Well, my nobility, you and I, we're in that situation where we are experiencing some form of injustice, maybe not the ultimate injustice of being murdered at too young of an age, or being murdered anytime really, but dying young. That injustice, we're experiencing that at whatever level we have injustice. Depression, that's a form of injustice. Why? Because most people are feeling depressed because they are failing to live up to the standards of the colonizer and the mainstream. I'll say it again. People are feeling depressed because they're failing to live up to the standards of the oppressor. Depressed, oppressed, same fucking word. So if you're walking around depressed because you ain't living up to the standards of the oppressor, you're living in hell. But the kingdom of heaven awaits you. It's already here. It's right here, right now, in the present, the everlasting now, in its perfection. The kingdom of heaven is here. It's within. It's also without. It's everywhere. It's everything. Its perfection itself is the kingdom of heaven. So when we enter into the kingdom of heaven, that injustice that we think that we feel, all of a sudden, God steps in and says, see, you are suffering from injustice. Here is the justice. I know I've experienced it. I've experienced true injustice when I have my kids taken away by their moms and literally kidnapped. Okay? Didn't see them for months, didn't know where they were. I'm panicking. Oh, where's my children? People lying about me, all this stuff. And I'm like, yo, I don't deserve none of this, God. What the fuck is going on? What is up with this injustice, God? Why me, God? But once I started embracing it for what it is, once I started seeing it for what it is, which is perfect, which is perfection, which is the soul growth, I saw the injustice. I embraced the perfection of the injustice. All of a sudden, God had justice to work with. And just like those kids living in joy, God put a joy in my heart, and God put a peace in my heart that is unshakable at its very core and foundation, unperturbable. It's nothing that I did, really, but my faith saw that God, in God's infinite wholeness, in God's infinite perfection, has a reason why things are happening. And so instead of seeing it as imperfect, seeing it as less than is, and start creating those circumstances that make it less and make it, oh, woe is me, oh, feel sorry for me, oh, whoa, 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 and start tearing myself down. Embracing the perfection provided a protection from those things that come with depression. And what are those things that come with depression when we feel less than? We abuse ourselves through food. We abuse ourselves through overworking. We abuse ourselves through not taking care of our bodies, through alcohol, through drug use. You name it. You just walking around seeing people abusing themselves. Parasites are demons, by the way. Chew on that for a while. Parasites in the body are demons, literally. You know, it's interesting just to take a moment here and talk about that, because parasitic thoughts that are parasitic, they're part of the perfection. Embracing that our body has parasites is part of the perfection. And we say to the perfection, I want to cleanse myself of these parasites. I don't need the parasites. I don't need anything feeding off of my energy force or feeding off of my field, Narcissists, they're parasites. They're parasites. They feed off the energy of the empath. Narcissists feed off the energy of the empath. The empath literally feeds the narcissist's energy, okay? But in that is perfection too, because once the empath embraces who they are and no longer allows narcissistic parasitic energy to feed off of them, that energy stays with us, and all of a sudden we're even more empowered. So be mindful of the demons that try and keep you and tell you that you're not perfect. Because I'll tell you what, when they say you're not, if a demon tells you you're not perfect, say, but you are. We are perfect. Isn't that oneness? Isn't that wholeness? Being able to see the demon for what it is and saying, yes, we are both part of this perfection. You are simply here to strengthen me, to strengthen my resolve, to teach me a lesson that I needed to learn, and I couldn't have even learned without you. Thank you. Now be on your way, or be transformed back into the light, or whatever it is that you do with the demonic energy that you've overcome. And then turn it into that God force, tune it into that God force again. That's the perfection, and that's the protection. Throw it up on the screen here real quick. We're just going to go over the word perfect. And there's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on here. I'm not going to get into all of the definitions on here, because as I was studying this week, I was just like, man, I could take unlimited notes as we get down into the bottom of them when it's involving music and what being perfect is and things, but which actually begs for a deeper study. But, perfect. Look at this. Adjective. Lacking nothing. Essential to the whole. Complete of its nature or kind. Well, that just shows you that all that is, the great event, everything that is happening right now, and that whatever happened and all that has happened and everything, it is lacking nothing. It is essential to the whole, the wholeness, the oneness, the great event. That wholeness is complete of its nature or kind. That shows you that everything is perfect. Definition number 2, being without defect or blemish, a perfect specimen. Being without defect or blemish. And that's very interesting, because really the only perfect specimens are gems and you get into like structure, like you get into energetic structure or the physics of structure, and you get into the fractal structure of like a quartz crystal. It's perfect. You can keep smashing that into powders and under microscopes. It is still perfect structure. A little bit different, way to look at it. Being without defect or blemish. Humans, we judge so much. This is a blemish. This is a defect. See, these are colonizers' words too. Like there may not even need to be a word for what is called defect. It's just kind of a stupid word. But we understand it. Oh, and by the way, this is the American Heritage Dictionary volume, or third edition. American Heritage Dictionary, third edition, where these definitions have come from. Definition number 3 of perfect: thoroughly skilled or talented in a certain field or area. Proficient. Well, wow, that can be thoroughly skilled or talented in a certain field or area. Proficient. Well, you're a proficient human being. That's a certain field or area that you were born into this world as a human being. Okay? So you're already perfect. You're thoroughly skilled and talented to being a human being. Oh, but I'm a failure. Yeah, it takes a lot of talent and skill to be a perfect failure. You feel me? So to be perfect at whatever you do, thoroughly skilled or talented in a certain field or area, whatever your job is, it could be sweeping the floor at a shop. I used to sweep the floor at a warehouse I worked at, and I was so good at it, they bumped me up. They bumped me up to the next position fast because I was so good at sweeping the floor, literally. Thoroughly skilled or talented in a certain field or area. Yeah, I was thoroughly talented at sweeping the floor of this big-ass warehouse. And I was proficient at it. I was perfect at it. Definition number 4. So that can be applied to anything, literally anything. Open your mind. See your perfection. Know your perfection. Number 4, completely suited for a particular purpose or situation. Well, that comes into where today we're going to be reading in the Gospel of Hip Hop, perform discipline. You're going to see how discipline really comes into, perform discipline is what we read last week. This week we're going to be reading perform study, and completely suited for a particular purpose or situation. I wanted to go to perform study based on this definition right here. Completely suited for a particular purpose or situation. See, now this gets into if you want to be a perfect MC and have people say you're a perfect MC, you're going to have to be completely suited for that particular purpose or situation that an MC will find themselves in. Or a DJ, or an actress, or a doctor, or a lawyer, or whatever it is, an inventor, whatever it is. And you're going to have to perform study. We have to perform study about ourselves and what it is that we want to accomplish and what it is that we're working our purpose towards or what we're working towards. Definition 5A, completely corresponding to a description, standard, or type. A perfect circle, a perfect gentleman. See, that's when it's saying, he was a perfect student. I say about my oldest daughter, she was a perfect child because she was. Like, people were tripping out because I heard all this stuff like how hard it is and how kids be doing this and that, and I just watch her grow up, and she was none of that. She was like so perfect. She slept good, she ate right, she was just the sweetest little heart. She is the sweetest little heart. But I always say she was a perfect child. I mean, as a compliment, and suited for a particular, as a completely corresponding to a description, standard, or type. I was describing her as perfect because she is. B, accurately reproducing an original, a perfect copy of the painting. All right, see, so, reproducing an original, the perfection has become the original. We can use other people as inspiration, and even one person as an inspiration, but we have to become originally perfect within ourselves. Definition number 6, complete, thorough, utter, completion. See, we're getting into wholeness. There's just ways of saying the wholeness. Pure, undiluted, unmixed. People want that pure, right? Pure water. We want undiluted, unmixed. We want pure water, purified water. And it's funny, what a lot of people call purified water is not purified water. It's not pure water. Pure water is structured. Pure water has mineral content in it. Pure water is life itself. Definition number 8, excellent and delightful in all respects, a perfect day. Botany, having both stamens and pistils in the same flower, monoclinias, Okay, see, these are the ones that I've got to look up. Grammar of relating to or constituting a verb form expressing action completed prior to a fixed point of reference in time. See, these are very interesting. But music, designating the three basic intervals of the octave, fourth and the fifth. B, and this is where I was thinking with hip hop and rhyme, designating a cadence or chord progression from the dominant to the tonic at the end of a phrase or piece of music. That's punchlines right there. Designating a cadence or a chord progression from the dominant to the tonic at the end of a phrase or a piece of music. Dun 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 dun, dun 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 dun. That's the perfection. That's called perfect in music. And that's the punchline at the end. That for an MC, this is your punchline. Make your punchlines perfect. Designating, because you're building up, 4 bars could build up to that one punchline at the end. Designating a cadence or chord progression from the dominant to the tonic at the end of a phrase or piece of music. Cadence, that's the MC. Perfect in grammar, the perfect tense. A verb form is perfect tense. And then we come all the way down here. And we want to look at Middle English, perfect, from Old French parfait, which is from the Latin perfectus. So the word perfect, okay, all of this to say the word perfect from Latin, the root word of perfect, perfectus, past participle of perfiris, to finish, and to perfaciere, to do. So to be perfect is to finish something or to do something. Well, we are all going to die. So, the couple people didn't, according to the Bible. But those of us who are probably going to leave this earth and experience banga, we're going to finish this life at some time. So to finish, to do. So we are literally perfect when we leave this world, no matter how we are, according to this definition, according to the root word of perfect, we are perfect when we leave earth because we finished. We finished what we were here to do. We're done. And to do, just to do something means you are perfect. Look at that. The root word right there in the Latin, all the way down, perfaciere, to do. To do is perfection. To be perfect is to do. I want to look at the synonyms. It's synonymous too, right? The synonyms. Consummate, faultless, flawless, impeccable. Consummate performance, faultless logic, flawless instrumental technique. Prince. Prince is perfect. Flawless. They say there's diamonds, a flawless diamond. The usage, perfect has often been described as the absolute term like chief and prime. See, perfect it's a baseline. It's what everything is. It's perfection. It is the wholeness. And we'll look at the word perfection here. The quality or condition of being perfect, okay? Definition number 1 of perfection, check that out again. The noun, the movement of it. The quality or condition of being perfect is perfection. Now this one right here, number 2. This definition, number 2, write this definition down of perfection. This is the definition of perfection. This is how you can live in perfection. This is how we live in perfection. The act or process of perfecting. As long as we are in the act or process of perfecting ourselves, we are living in perfection. If we are living in perfection, we are under protection. Look at that, the act or process of perfecting. You're a perfect MC. Your MCing is perfection if you are consciously and regularly working on the act or process of perfecting your MCing. You are already perfect. A person or thing considered to be perfect. Jesus, the Christ, is considered perfect among Christians and other religions too. Number 4, an instance of excellence is perfection. So whenever you think you ain't perfect, whenever you feel like I ain't perfect, ain't nobody perfect, You're going to create a reality. Ain't nobody perfect if you feel like that. You're going to create the reality. I'm perfect if you say that and feel like that. And that's what Perform Discipline, that's what triggered this last week. If you watched last week's, I was just reading Perform Discipline. And I was talking about, if you say ain't nobody perfect, you're going to experience ain't nobody perfect. Okay? And then while I was reading, I was like, oh, perfection is protection. And I wrote it down like last week. So I had all week to think about this. It came during last week's message from the Minista. And right here, an instance of excellence, okay? If you feel like, oh, I ain't perfect. Well, look back at your life and look at a moment when you had a moment of excellence in your life, where you finished something that you were really proud of. Look at that. That's perfection. If you experience perfection, you are perfect. Okay? And everyone's experienced perfection because we're living beings. We're just doing humans. It said to do. The root word, perfaciar, to do. The Latin root of the word perfect, to do. It just means to do. So you're doing something, you're breathing, you are perfectly breathing. Even if you have problem breathing, you're still alive, so you're perfectly breathing. Okay? You're just being a human right now. That's what you're doing. That's what we're doing. We're being, we are aiming, but we're just doing. We're doing human. I'm doing a human right now. You're perfect at it. Flaws, mistakes, that's perfect. That's it. Like humanity's flaws, perfect. You're a human. You're a perfect human being if you're experiencing anything that every other human being has experienced, which is suffering and joy. Sometimes at the same time. Okay, pop up here. We'll go over protect and protection real quick. Protect, protected, protecting, protects. To keep from being damaged, attacked, stolen, or injured. Guard. And really to keep from being, when you have a perfect image of yourself, it cannot be damaged. When you have a perfect image of yourself, it can be attacked, but it can't be attacked because it's perfected. It will dispel any low-level attack. Your perfection of your image of yourself cannot be stolen. It cannot even be injured. That's the protection of perfection right there. Definition number 2, protect. To help with tariffs or quotas or imported goods. That's domestic industry stuff. Definition number 3, to assure payment of. By setting aside funds. We're going to protect our investment by setting aside these funds just in case something happens with the economy. We'll protect our investment. Same thing, people who are protecting their future by, storing up certain food goods in case the stores get shut down again. That's protection. See, they're saying that protection is something that you do as an act in the now that's gonna be in the future as well because you took care of it now. Protection, the act of protecting. Protection, the condition of being protected. One that protects. A pass guaranteed safe conduct to travelers, a system of tariffs or other measures protecting domestic producers from foreign competition. Slang, money extorted by racketeers threatening violence for non-payment. Yeah, I call it taxation. Watch this. Is this not taxation? Well, they say protection. Now, you want our protection? Like you see it in the mafia movies, right? And people pay for the protection. So, the guy at the local shop has to make a cash payment to the local mafia so his store remains protected, right? But protection money, slang, number 5. Think of the word taxes, taxation with this definition. Money extorted by racketeers threatening violence for non-payment. Bribes paid to officials by racketeers for immunity from prosecution. That's literally taxation and government money, which government doesn't have no money but the money we give it. I don't know where the government runs around acting like they're giving people money, like it's theirs. It's our money. Protection. Perfection is protection. It prepares us for, our perfection prepares us for what's coming. And while that's what's coming is here in the now and in the present moment, and all of a sudden, like the weight of the world is on you, or the excitement of the world. Excitement can be heavy too. Like when you finally grab that mic and you're in front of 1,000 people, oh, da-da-dee-dee-da-dee-day. You know, that can crush people harder than other things in life can. Like, you know. But seeing what the perfection is in all this, knowing our perfection, knowing that things are going to work out if we stay on course. Okay? Knowing that whatever anybody threw at us, I am perfect. You ain't perfect, bink, it just bounces off. I am perfect. What about this? Bink, let it bounce off. Let it bounce off. People are going to try and take you away from that because it's very comfortable for people to walk around and say, ain't nobody perfect. Nothing's perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect government. There's no such thing as a perfect this or that, the other. You know what the perfect car is? Like, you want to know what the most perfect car ever made is? Like literally the most perfect car ever made. Take a moment and guess. Like think about it for a minute. What is the most perfect car ever made? It's the one that gets you where you need to go. That's the most perfect car ever made. The car that gets you where you need to go is the most perfect car ever made. What's the most perfect house ever made? Like, what's the most perfect house design? What's the perfect house design? Complete perfection. It's the house that's been designed and keeps you safe and warm, and your family safe and warm from the elements. That's perfect. That's the perfect house. Perfection is really just having what you need when you need it. And what do we really need? You know, what do we really need? Now, there's all these kind of wants, but what do we really need? What is it that you need? Because we don't even need this body. We have eyes that see without this body. We have ears that hear. We have a mouth that speaks that doesn't even use this body. It's called the inner dialogue. It's happening all the time. Doesn't need this body to have inner dialogue. We don't even need this body. And when you're in spirit, you know your perfection. When you enter into the kingdom of heaven that you are, Hippopia, you enter into perfection. And if hip-hop side has shown us anything, it is about self-empowerment. Empower ourselves. Why? Because we are perfect. Our flaws are perfect. Our shortcomings are perfect. But we have to be reaching for the perfection for them to be perfect. For the mistake to be perfect, you have to reach for the perfection. Because if you don't see and reach towards the perfection, you think it's imperfect, you'll have the imperfect experience. You'll have the experience of imperfection. Even though it's an illusion, you're still going to experience imperfection. The illusion of imperfection, because you believe in imperfection. Even though it's false and it's an illusion, you will experience that false illusion of imperfection. And that's what we've all experienced, the false illusion of imperfection. Now we must rise to the majestic heights of the truth of all perfection. And as we see perfection, we work towards perfection. As we are perfecting ourselves, we are perfect. Literally by the translations. We just saw the translations. I'm not saying nothing here that's out of this world that's insane to grasp. It's just a mental condition that the colonizers put onto people by creating this thing, this illusion called imperfection. And we've allowed this false identity, this false lie, that things aren't all perfect. I'll tell you too, when those who really get this, those who really start embracing their perfection right where they're at, they're going to see and know and accept themselves for who they are right there. Those are the ones who are going to change those things they want to outgrow about themselves, that they don't particularly like about themselves, that they want to change about themselves. When you embrace that self that you are as perfection, you're able to move towards perfection more rapidly, more clearly, more accurately. Why? Because you see what perfection is. You know what perfection is. And once we see and once we know something, we're able to be that something. We're able to work towards that something. That's the goal then. So when we see perfection, we have the goal of seeing perfection to work towards. God is perfect. If God is perfect, God never made a mistake. So creating any human being, no matter how bad, so-called bad, or how so-called good they are, is perfect. Perfect. If you're going through like some kind of form of narcissistic abuse, it's perfect. The narcissist is perfect. Especially for your soul's evolution, your soul's growth. Embrace it for what it is. I don't like dealing with a narcissist. I'm going to embrace that I don't like dealing with it, but I'm going to embrace it what it is. It's perfect. Now that I see perfect, I will become perfect. Now that I see perfection, I shall achieve perfection. It's really this simple, my nobility. And the other side of it is, for, I guess, the second half of this, because I want to read in the Gospel of Hip Hop, perform study. When we study perfection, we understand perfection. When we study emceeing, we understand and overstand emceeing. Perform study is so important because the definition as we're working towards our perfection means we're perfect. If we're working towards if we're working towards the perfection of our craft, emceeing, we're perfecting our craft. We are being perfect at that moment, which is all moments. Being perfect in that moment, working towards what we want to become. Because really, the most fulfilling thing is fulfilling our purpose in life. It's writing the book we want to write, recording the album we want to record, becoming whatever it is we see ourselves becoming. Hopefully it's something noble. The 9 elements. Breaking, emceeing, graffiti art, DJing, beatboxing, street fashion, street language, street knowledge, street entrepreneurialism. Those elements, those 9 elements, those lead to the perfection of character for the hip-hopper. So when we take those 9 elements and we perfect the 9 elements, or we perfect one of the 9 elements, or even all of them, or 2 or 3, or whatever it is that we're perfecting our character. We're perfecting ourselves. We're accomplishing something, a purpose within ourselves. And we start feeling good about ourselves. We start feeling good about other people. It's amazing how perfection works like that. As we're perfecting ourselves. And this is why it's important to spend time doing the things you love. Do what you love. There's going to be times where we have to perform responsibility. If we love performing responsibility, it makes whatever task we may not like performing a lot easier. But when you do something you love, something you really love, is there any more perfect feeling than doing something you love? Just getting lost. I love mixing music. And so I'll write a song, record it, and while I'm mixing it, I just get lost in soundscapes and time and space, and I just get, and next thing I know, 2 hours have gone by, and I've got this masterpiece. I've got this piece of artwork, this perfect piece of artwork that didn't exist, 2 hours before. It's a great feeling inside. It's a great feeling. It's not even a song that I've even shared with other people yet, but I feel great already about it. I don't need the approval of anybody else. You don't need the approval of anybody else if it makes you feel good. And I mean really feel good, not momentarily feel good, not the call of lust, which sometimes you got to answer, but lust is this temporary thing, but love, when you really do something you love, it's a feeling that it feels right. It's a feeling of joy, it's a feeling of peace, and it lasts. And the more we do that for ourselves, with ourselves, the more we encourage other people and even help them as well, the more we have that experience of perfection, life becomes more perfect. And while I was reading, I was like, what am I gonna, the one definition inspired me towards perform study this week. But really, the divine performance is about perfecting one's character. It's about perfecting oneself. And discipline is about the perfecting of oneself. You can see that study is as well. The divine performance is about perfection of oneself, perfection of the hipapa. Divine performance number 3, the third overstanding is the divine performance. Divine performance number 3, perform study. Oh, if I put my chin down, it hits the mic. Okay. Divine performance number 3, perform study. I'll put this up here, the divine performance in the third overstanding, the divine performance in the Gospel of Hip Hop, written by the teacher, KRS-One, and presented to the Temple of Hip Hop. Divine performance number 3, perform study. Study the progression of your own life experiences. Write them down. Teacher always says, keep a journal. Study your life and practice repeating the actions of your own success. Great song on Sneak Attack. What kind of world are we living in? At the beginning, if you don't repeat the actions of your own success, you won't be successful. Study your life and practice repeating the actions of your own success. Study God's ways. Study God's voice. Study God's laws. And most of all, study God's love and selfless care. Familiarize yourself through study with the way of the Great Spirit. Every week, investigate on the mental level a new idea that you are unfamiliar with or only partially familiar with. Design your style of conversation through study. Seek out new spiritual, philosophical, and political books, seminars, cassettes, compact discs, videos, and other information that specifically builds your spiritual and political knowledge. An infinite, all-knowing, all-seeing, omnipresent God does not speak one language or through one religion or political party. God is infinitely limitless and speaks through a variety of sources. Therefore, hip-hoppers are encouraged to explore and respect all spiritual materials, thoughts, people, and places. Such a study expands the spiritual experience of the hipapa and builds character. Perfect yourself. There's a t-shirt. Perfect yourself. Right there, my nobility, perfect yourself. Perfect yourself is perfection. While you are perfecting yourself, it is perfection. Perfect yourself. For the more you perfect yourself, the more perfect you shall become. You cannot expect spiritual results in the physical world if you are spiritually unstudied. For if you are truly serious about enhancing your spiritual reality, and you truly value the presence of God in your life, then you must take your spiritual study time seriously. Don't just study this gospel, study all gospels. Know this, the true hip-hopper lives this gospel and studies all others. Watch television shows that inform as well as entertain. Do not waste your time criticizing the use of television, computers, motion pictures, print media, the internet, and radio. Simply choose very carefully the programs you expose yourself and your family to. Whatever the program, seek to create a lesson out of it. Extract the hidden meaning behind all that you are exposed to. Create meaning even when there appears to be none. Know this, to the pure in heart, all things are pure. But to the troubled, all things are troubling. See only God and experience only peace. Look for the lesson, even if one does not appear to exist. Expand your comprehension. Do not just study knowledge, create knowledge out of the experiences of your own life. Add to the things that you already know. Do not just study to know, bring your knowing to your study. Study what you need to know. My nobility, study what you need to know. You don't have to study everything. Study what you need to know. All true hip-hoppers should have something. All true hip-hoppers should know something of world history, commerce and trade, philosophy, politics, art, music, medicine, religion, geology, science, mathematics, psychology, public speaking, cooking, cleaning, parenting, and this gospel of hip-hop. The true hip-hopper is familiar with and knows how to use a variety of holy books, standard dictionaries, the solar and lunar calendars, his country's constitution, and the interstate highway and road maps of his country. This knowledge is very helpful and empowering to the free, traveling, entrepreneurial hip-hopper. Visit and use your public library if you're privileged to be near one. Be prepared to copy information and take notes at all times. Perform your study, seek, memorize, and create new knowledge. Study is about the building and knowing of oneself. It's not about the building of state institutions and the knowing of others and their achievements. Study is about getting educated. It is about the building of oneself. As Ernest Thompson Seton once said, manhood, not scholarship, is the first aim of education. Perform your study. Perform study. That's what we're doing right here. You perform and study. Anytime you tune in the message from the minister, I performed study all week while I was getting this ready. I'll be performing study when I listen back as I drop this down and I do the edits and the audio and what needs to be done on this. I add the pictures of the gospel of hip hop, right? So I'll be performing study with this same lesson. Some weeks I'll say things, I'll be like, oh man, that's deep. I should write that down. Because things just come out in the spirit, And this is why part of performing study is study how to be a public speaker. A lot of people are really shy and afraid to speak publicly and let their voice be heard. And I'll tell you, when you're sincere, it doesn't matter if you stutter. People are going to want to hear you when you come from a sincere heart. Know thyself, my nobility. Know thyself. Perform study. I just thought perform study is, study your perfection. Study God. Study God's perfection. Study God's laws. Study God's love. Study the divine performance. Study thyself. Know thyself. Take notes. Repeat the actions of your own success. That's a classic lesson. I remember the first time I heard that on the sneak attack. If you don't repeat the actions of your own success, you won't be successful. Life is funny. If you don't repeat the actions of your own success, you won't be successful. Wow. I mean, just that one line right there. Repeat the actions of your own success and you'll continue to be successful. What is it? And find out, what is that? If something feels good, that's your success. If you do something out of love and that loving feeling is there and you did what you love to do, that's success right there. That's perfection. It's a state of perfecting ourselves. And remember, while we're perfecting ourselves, we're already perfect because we're perfecting ourselves. That's the definition according to the English language. So if anybody ever says to you, ain't nobody perfect, say, aha, you're wrong. According to the English, according to the American Heritage Dictionary, the 3rd edition, this is what perfect means. This is what perfection means. So therefore, you're perfect, I'm perfect, we're all perfect. It's all perfect. I hope you see this. I hope you're getting in my nobility, because it's a sight, it's a feeling, it's a being. It's not just the word perfection in a philosophy. It goes from the philosophy into the actual being. The philosophy is a finger pointing at the being that you're becoming. Oh, I did want to say this week. A couple months ago, I was in a Walmart parking lot. I was in my 2003 Mustang GT. I'll put a little picture of her up here. Not much to look at. Cool car, though. Actually, dope car. I think it's a lot to look at. I think it's got great lines in this car. But, it was a car. It fit my budget. It was available. I grabbed it. It's a fun car. And I was backing out in a Walmart parking lot. If you all remember, a couple months ago, I talked about this. I was backing out of the parking lot, and somebody did a hit and run. They just slammed into the back of my car, crushed the whole bumper in the steel, and bent something in the bent a part of the rear end differential. They had to be replaced, and had to replace the bumper and all kinds of work, tail light, all kinds of things had to be done on it. It's between insurance companies and then the body shop I took it to, even they were just slow, and I was just going through the motions, of just staying in my center, staying in my perfection. And I was on it. I was making calls. I wasn't letting nobody push me around, but it was like, man, I was having to do the jobs of the insurance company for them at times. It's crazy. But anyways, almost 2 months go by, and I got the car back about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I got it back. And I got it back. I went out, got it washed, filled it up with gas, ran one little quick errand in it, and then it sat here. And I didn't really go out that much. And the other night, I went out to get my mom and me dinner. Okay, and so I hadn't really driven it that much, and I was like, well, I'm gonna be on the freeway coming home. I need to wring it out, the engine out, so all the little particles from sitting around, all that stuff. It's good to wring an engine out. Wringing an engine out means that you let it rev up to the limit and let it shift gears. Vroom, vroom, vroom. You give the car some gas and you rev it up and you just clean out all the system, let the fluids move around, any stuck particles inside the oil or the gas or whatever is going to get cleaned out. And helps the seals of the car last longer, helps the engine last longer too. So I was going to just wring it out on the ride home. Open freeway, V8 Mustang, sounds like fun. But I got the dinner, and on the way home, it was just bumper to bumper traffic. Bumper to bumper traffic, right? And God's always protecting us. Keep this in mind. God is always protecting us. Now I got it. The hit and run, somebody left. Finally got the car fixed, going through the rigmarole with the body shop and going through the rigmarole with the insurance company. Finally get the car back, sits for about a week. I go out in it. And I'm out driving, getting dinner. I'm coming home, and I can't wring it out because there's just bumper to bumper traffic. It was getting toward the week before Thanksgiving, so everybody's just in bumper to bumper traffic out on the highway. And I'm like kind of irritated. I'm like, oh man, fucking traffic. So I just turn up the music and just drive. Don't go over 10 miles an hour. Don't go over 10 miles an hour. Take the exit. Bunch of traffic in the neighborhoods. So I don't even go, I go like 10, 15 miles an hour. I get to the road right before you turn to my road. My house is. And I'm driving, and all of a sudden the car just starts going boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, oh shit, I gotta pull over. And it's one of those roads where there's traffic coming this way, traffic going this way. Everybody's going about 20 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour in each direction. There's no a bike lane to pull over in because it's a main thoroughway. And so I see the next street, and I start turning over as I put my blinker on to turn, and the car's just bumping. All of a sudden it just goes, and I just hear grinding, and the whole back end of the car goes down, and I just pull right into the corner on the street, the side street there. And I'm like, what the heck happened? You got to be kidding me. And I thought, they had fixed the rear end, so I thought maybe the new part had broken. I got out, and my tire had come off. The whole rim, the tire, everything came off. And all I see is the hub and the brakes. And I'm like, what the heck, man? I'm like, oh, yo. And so I run out to the street hoping, I'm like, where's my tire at? If somebody could hit my tire, and if somebody hits my tire, it could cause an accident. I'm thinking all kind of things. And so I get out on the street, and I got my phone flashlight, and I'm looking, and the cars are just vroom, 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 just driving by. And I'm looking for this tire and I don't see it. And then I see a little hill. And so I start going down the hill and I start calling the guy's shop. I have his home number, right? And, or his personal number. So I call him up and I was like, and he answered. And I was like, yo, dude, my tire came off. This is the first time I've really driven it since I left your shop. Your guys screwed up. They didn't put on the tire right. I almost caused an accident. Yo, what's up? And he's like, yo, where you at? I'm going to be there in just a few minutes. I told him where I'm at. He was only a few minutes away. And he's like, yo, we'll get this thing going. I'm so sorry, man. And I was like, yo, I can't find my tire. And so I'm walking up and down the street looking for this tire. And I don't know, 10, 15 minutes go by, call the insurance company, let them know what's happening. And, he pulls up and I was like, yo, I can't find the tire, man. This sucks. And he's like, he goes, yo, I found your tire, man. It was like a quarter mile down the road. God is so great, my nobility. God is so great. God is so perfect. And God's protection is perfect. Perfection is protection. Because in God's protection, not only was there a perfect amount of way too much traffic at that hour, on the highway there, coming home, and getting off the off-ramp into my house. Not only was there perfect traffic that whole way, because what if I got on there and I got up to speed and I hit 50 miles an hour and that tire went off? I would have skidded out just from the physics of the momentum. The back end goes down, it would have gone sideways. That's what happens when you lose the whole tire. You go sideways with that tire. And that tire would have been flying on the freeway. Somebody would have hit me. Most likely I could have skidded into the side rail. Who knows what would have happened if it wasn't for the perfection of that traffic at that moment. Perfect traffic. Perfect traffic. I thank God for that traffic. And even when the tire came off, it started routing. I was at the perfect intersection, literally a street away, a block away from my house. And the car, I had a perfect spot right there. Perfect. Perfect. That wheel rolled a quarter of a mile downhill into oncoming traffic and hit nobody. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. The body shop owner happened to be working late that day, just around the corner. Came in his truck, found the tire, got the tire back on, got it to the house. Perfect. Perfect. Now, am I happy it happened? No way. Did I want it to happen? No way. Does my car require more work that has to be taken care of? Yep, it does. But it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect in every way, shape, and form. I don't know how everybody else is living, but I know how I'm living. And I know that, that night when after I didn't even get really an adrenaline rush at first. I was calm. Anytime I'm at a space in life when something happens, when an event happens where people can get nervous or scared or whatever, craziness is going on in the outside world, or, like a wreck or something, or a fight breaks out or whatever it is, shots ringing out, I don't know, whatever it is. I just hit a state of peace and calm and zen from years of cultivation. And so I was there, even when I was looking for my thing, even when I was calling him, I was laughing. I was like, dude, your guys. He showed up, I was laughing. I was like, this is crazy. But hey, man, I'm so glad I was talking about God's perfection and God's timing and perfection. About my body, it was so smooth. But later on, I just thought about the people who care about me, the people I love, my life. And it's like I'm ready to go when it's time, but obviously it wasn't my time, right? But I started feeling that, I started feeling the weight of that, the weight of how close death was that night. And I was like, man, I got to say something to this guy's crew. The guy didn't tighten the nuts up when he put the lug nuts on the car. He didn't tighten them up. The guy who worked on it, which wasn't the owner, the dude who came to help me. But his guy didn't put the lug nuts on tight enough, man. I'm glad it was me and not a family in a minivan. I'm glad it was me and not somebody else who isn't under that vibrational frequency of perfection and protection all the time. Okay? I'm glad. I'm very thankful that if it was going to happen to anybody, it happened to me. And I'm very thankful that if it was going to happen, it happened exactly the way it did, because it was perfect. But just because it's perfect doesn't mean that there's other perfection I don't got to add to it. Talking to the guy who didn't put the nuts on and just let him know, like, hey, man, you got a job to do that actually could endanger people's lives if you don't do it right. And I just think nowadays, people are so complacent with so many jobs that actually, affect the lives of other people. Maybe not in a life or death like this situation, but actually affects the lives of other people. Like, there's some terrible bosses out there that affects the lives of everybody who works under them. When they got to go home, the way a boss maybe treats an employee, that employee can go home and carry that to their home and their children. And how often people are so irresponsible about how their life affects the lives of others, and their decisions and what they do for a job can affect the lives of others. So I thought about that as like everything happened perfect, but even my knowing and the deeper study and the deeper awareness that it caused was that perfection, and really realizing God's protection was such perfection at that moment. Everything happened perfectly, exactly the way it had to happen. Car's in the shop right now getting fixed. Hopefully it goes a lot quicker than the last time, but I'm at peace with it. Because it's just a car, and I'm at peace with it. It's just the life, okay? This body is not my life. I'm an eternal being. If God chose me if that tire came off at 60 miles an hour, and I crashed and died, perfect. What are we complaining about? Why are we always complaining about how life presents itself? It's all perfect. We live in a temporary world. This is temporary. Our experiences are temporary. All of them are temporary. That's perfection. Let's close with the Tao Te Ching, my nobility. Put it up here. Tao Te Ching number 45. Well, I like to put, whenever I put the Tao Te Ching up, just scrolling up the screen here, just looking at the beautiful Chinese handwriting. We go from bottom to top. It's a short one right here. Tao Te Ching 45. The greatest perfection seems imperfect. And yet, its use is inexhaustible. The greatest fullness seems empty. And yet, its use is endless. The greatest straightness looks like crookedness. The greatest skill appears clumsy. The greatest eloquence sounds like stammering. Restlessness overcomes cold, but calm overcomes heat. The peaceful and serene is the norm of the world. The norm of our world, my nobility, is peaceful and serenity. The greatest skill appears clumsy. That's why those who are so great at what they do, they make it look easy. I remember the first time seeing the teacher, the first time seeing KRS-One perform. I thought, man, that looks easy. He makes it look so easy. Like he was up there just having a good time, like he wasn't even trying. And what was that audience? 350 people were packed, thoroughly rocked, thoroughly got 10 times their money's worth. It was a $10 show. I would have easily paid $100 for that show. Flawless perfection in everything he did, but it was so loose. It looked easy. And I remember thinking, I want to do that. I can do that. Prince. When Prince plays guitar, he makes it look easy. He looks like he just picked the thing up and go. Carlos Santana just makes it look easy. Just makes it look like you just pick it up and. Jimi Hendrix makes it look easy. It's just in his hand. Stevie Ray Vaughan just made it look so easy. The greatest skill appears clumsy. I would say the greatest skill appears easy. The greatest perfection seems imperfect. Well, that's the world, my nobility. Listen to the wisdom of the great Tao. Listen to the wisdom of Lao Tzu. The greatest perfection seems imperfect. If you seem imperfect, you are the greatest perfection. If your life seems imperfect, it is the greatest perfection. If the earth seems imperfect, it is because it is the greatest perfection. Don't be afraid of your perfection, my nobility. Don't be afraid of the word perfection. We literally just looked it up. There's nothing superhuman about perfection. But it does take superhuman acts to approach and understand and overstand and see the perfection for what it is. You are perfect, my nobility. Everything you do is perfect when you are perfecting yourself. As God is perfecting us, really. And hip-hop is the perfect site for your environment. Hip-hop is the perfect site for any environment. It'll get you out of poverty, sickness, hatred, ignorance, and poverty. And the hip-hop site will deliver you into health, love, awareness, and wealth. Perfection. It can change whatever appears in its environment and perfect you into a state of being and into a person and into a purpose that you are proud of. One that gives you empowerment. One that, and a city and a group and a new nation of people that gives us empowerment and gives our children empowerment forever. That's the true perfection. All of us realizing our perfection, realizing the perfection of hip hop. Let's go, my nobility. Let's rise up into the perfect vision that God has for us. There it is. Peace and so much love to you. You are perfect. Perfection is protection, and you are so protected, and you are so perfected, my nobility. Be empowered. Word.